Hello, welcome to Humanizing the Classroom, tips, tools, and strategies for effective assessment and communication. My name is Anna Divinsky, and I'm co-presenting with Cookie Redding and Christine Shanks from the College of Arts and Architecture, Penn State University. Here I will be discussing my own approach to humanizing the classroom as it applies to a fully online asynchronous art course that I teach for World Campus students who are adult learners. First, I established myself as a genuine person by introducing myself to the students and modeling an online community. During the first week, I share my bio, pictures, artwork, and research. This is an example from spring 2020 when my graduate teaching assistants and I shared our information with the students as one of our ways of connecting with them.
One way to reach out to students the first week and introduce yourself is to use a video introduction. I have a 15-minute faculty introduction, and I know that seems long, but it is broken up into sections. I first introduce myself, then I talk a bit about how I teach, and then I introduce my work and my processes. During the pandemic, I also created a very short video that discusses my flexibility while teaching and also stresses the importance of communication and reaching out before a barrier becomes too great and reaching out to make a plan and to move forward in class and to communicate whatever barrier the student is facing. I also have an animated avatar that's very helpful. I can attach it to emails or announcements, especially the first week, but I often use it throughout the course, again, to humanize the class. This is my welcome avatar that I use to welcome students to the course.
Next, we move on to engaging students with different forms of connecting. Connecting with students asynchronously includes weekly emails or announcements, discussion boards, Microsoft Teams, following up with lagging students via student reporting system, utilizing surveys to collect feedback and assessment. Connecting with students synchronously includes virtual office hours, one-on-one meetings, small group discussions and activities, brainstorming sessions and critiques, and troubleshooting sessions. 2 weeks in advance, we reach out before the course begins by sending out an email or announcement that includes the course syllabus and materials letter. This allows students to prepare in advance and purchase their materials on time. We also share weekly reminders and tips to help students succeed in the course.
And for my classes, I like to do introductory videos so that the students know how the course is navigated, how do you read the feedback, and also where do you see the deadlines? That way everyone starts all on the same page.
Building an online community for me includes organizing a meet and greet, which is a live Zoom meeting. During the meeting, I introduce myself and the students have an opportunity to introduce themselves. I share my screen and walk students through the course to explain to them what they need to know in order to succeed, where everything is located, and how they will be evaluated. Students are always encouraged to ask questions. We also do an introduction activity where students create an artwork and write a narrative about themselves and explain their interests, professional goals, and previous experience with art.
This slide is an icebreaker activity, and it gives instructions. The summary is the faculty member or a participant chooses a how-to activity. In this particular activity, I chose how to tie a shoe, and it is an activity that I use in my introduction to visual communications courses, both on campus and live online. It can also be used in meetings within asynchronous courses to get people engaged and to start breaking the ice and get communication going. The icebreaker activity involves 3 volunteers. One can only communicate through words, that's it. One can only communicate the subject to us through visuals by drawing, and the third can use both visuals and either written or verbal communication through text in order to communicate, in my case, how to tie a shoe. And what it teaches students is the effectiveness of both showing and telling, and how using both visuals and words or text can communicate better together to reveal the bigger picture.
In week 1, I like to do an introductory blog post. This is a nice way for everyone to start building that sense of community within their courses, and also start the conversation so they know, who are going to be their peers, especially in my classes when we have a lot of feedback and iteration sections throughout our processes. This way they kind of know each other before we actually jump into things for the semester. One of the methods that I like to do is the photo voice, and this is a nice way because instead of the usual where are you, what is your major, etc., you can have a little bit more fun with this. So this is a great way to make it a little bit more personal on that week 1 discussion post. So you can give them a question, you can it gives them a chance to be a little bit more creative with the process. So just give them a statement that allows them to explore visually, as well as doing a little bit of writing. You can use a Google Doc for this so that can just keep, running in a thread. Or how I like to do it is with a Canvas or whatever learning management system you use, discussion board. Something that I like to use is like, tell us a story of one of your daily rituals. What is something that you see every day that you might take for granted? Show me something that inspires you. That way we can have a little bit more of a conversation around that, concept and topic that makes it a little bit more unique and personal and individualized for each person.
A human approach to connecting with students through tools. Some of the important approaches are engaging with students through email or announcement communication, tracking student progress, student assessment, and surveys. All semester, I love to practice positive course presence and humanness by being mindful in my positive tone and language, considering the importance of etiquette, reinforcing idea of availability, instilling comfort by making students feel empowered to reach out, encouraging students to rework and resubmit assignments, and creating an open-minded framework of relationships. Connecting through Starfish, student progress reporting system, is also important. I fill out an early progress report, which is 2 weeks into the semester, a mid-semester report, and I can also add my comments throughout the semester. This is a great tool to connect with students and also keep their advisors in the loop.
I use live interaction in my asynchronous courses. I use them during virtual office hours, one-on-one student meetings, and group brainstorming sessions or critiques with students. You can use video conferencing with Zoom or something like Teams to do one-on-one walk-in or scheduled office hours for students at a set time weekly. I also provide flex time every 2 weeks, which is helpful in the asynchronous courses to span vastly different time zones. Video conferencing can be used for group discussions and group Q&As. Not all students have to participate, but those that do often can form better bonds, and you find that they participate in asynchronous group discussions more often after they meet live. Oftentimes using the Microsoft Teams app can be very helpful to create another channel for students to contact you through. They can text you through the app. It creates a direct connection. The app can be turned off and notifications can be turned off at certain points during the day if you don't want to have notifications popping up on your phone. And it also prevents you from having to give out your personal phone number. Providing different ways that students can communicate with you often encourages them to reach out in a way they are comfortable and creates more avenues for them to communicate with you. And it creates a bit more variation than just providing email.
Reaching out to students who are not consistently participating is extremely important. We can always offer options, allow resubmissions, provide additional feedback, make sure all policies are clearly stated in the syllabus, keep track of lagging students, reach out to those students directly throughout the semester, and communicate with their advisors. Here's some encouraging words from my graduate students in the past, another way of connecting with their students. A human approach to evaluating student progress, clear explanation of how students will be assessed, clear assignment directions, specific examples and approaches to student assignments, tracking student progress, and surveys. I always like to be very clear about assignment due dates, but also grading due dates, when my grades and feedback will be available to my students. How will students be assessed? Clear grading policy, clear assignment directions, and learning objectives, examples of student work, a sample rubric, an explanation of the rubric. What do all of the categories mean? How much are they worth? Why were they selected? What type of feedback will students receive? Providing them with all of that information sets them up for success. Personalized student feedback is the most important to me because it's my main teaching tool. Students receive some evaluation in the rubrics, but the personalized feedback gives them very specific suggestions on how to improve. They can utilize that feedback for the upcoming assignments. Here's just some example, an example of my feedback. I used the method, a sandwich method of positive, of constructive, positive. I always welcome students to reach out with questions, and I also provide them with in-progress feedback for their work.
And these are two videos from video conferencing with students. So connecting with students live can often really reduce the amount of time that we spend writing out an email, for example. It can often reduce the amount of time that we spend working with students asynchronously. It helps to streamline communication. So for example, a 10 email long chain can often become a 5-minute conversation. I have used it in my classes successfully for creative brainstorming, which creates a live discussion and opens up a lot more possibilities for students. I have utilized it for students who are falling behind. Oftentimes it creates more of an interaction between faculty and student, and it helps you to work together to create a plan to get the student back on track, rather than email, which often feels a bit like dictating a plan to a student. And the sessions can lead to really great follow-up opportunities. So you can help a student to troubleshoot a technical issue in a live meeting and then follow up with them on email. And if you have a student who's falling behind, that you work on a plan to get back on track, you can follow up through email. And after you have created that personal connection with them through face-to-face video conferencing, they're often less intimidated to contact you if they run into other issues within the course. In the first video here, clarifying communication, it's a great example of something that would have been very hard to solve and understand through an email chain. The students presenting something that would have been hard to communicate through just words alone. And then in the second video, it's an example of a brainstorming session, something that would have taken the student and I some time to figure out if we were just discussing asynchronously through email or through feedback in the gradebook. And then here you can see how it just goes much faster when we were actually able to video conference one-on-one and review the student's project together.
Throughout our process of how my courses are set up is we have these peer feedback and iteration sections. So we use our discussion boards for this. So for like this one, it's write 1 to 2 paragraphs about your photo manipulation process. And then you talk about what you've done through the project and others can interact with this. As well as being used to, getting used to writing about your process, you can see how others are working as well. So the peers can give each other feedback in this sort of parameter, but I also use Canvas for audio feedback, and all of these links will of course be provided so that you can get a sample of this. I like to rotate between writing feedback, talking feedback, and then giving video feedback. And what's nice with Canvas is it's going to allow for that flexibility. The other learning management systems have this also. Blackboard and D2L has it, depending on what you have at your institution. But what's nice with this, instead of just being this sort of typed voice, you can actually use your voice and have a nice connection to the students when they get their feedback. I found this to be really beneficial. One of the students has said, I enjoyed the comments and loved reading them or listening to the feedback with the audio files. It was always switched up, which is nice. And I'm just going to do a little asterisk on this. I like to do the rotation of this because since everyone has their, unique learning style, I always find one of them is going to connect to the students. And then by this rotation, you're going to have a nice sort of cycle through with them so that they get the feedback in the style that's going to relate most to them. Another option, if it is at your institution, is to use VoiceThread for feedback. What I love about VoiceThread is not only can you type, you can talk, you can call in, it will leave a voice message. It's going to allow you multiple modes of feedback giving, and it allows for all the students to see everyone's work and to be able to have a conversation about the work. And this has been a really nice way to get extra feedback, not just from me, but from the students to each other as well. So if you have access to this, this is something that I highly recommend that you experiment with. One of the questions that I get a lot is how do you do these, video recordings? There's a few sites out there that you can use like Loom, but the one I like is OBS because it is totally free for use. You can do your recording. It will do what's called a remux, and that gives you the MP4 file, and then you can just upload that to your feedback area where you're giving your comments. And I have found this is to be the easiest approach for me, but as ever, feel free to experiment with whatever system of screen capturing works for you.
Utilizing student feedback to improve the classroom experience. About 7 weeks into the semester, I send out a survey to students asking them about their experience. This allows me to collect the data and incorporate it into my future teaching. Here are some of the questions that I ask the students, and then I reflect on that information and implement it into the next course. Some feedback from a student who enjoyed personal feedback. Thank you so much. Please reach out if you have any questions.